What happens when an undercover CEO works as a cashier and is horrified by what the supervisor says about elderly customers? Let's dive to see. Harold Griggs was the kind of man who believed in walking through life with his eyes wide open. At 52, he'd built a thriving grocery chain from scratch, but something had been gnawing at him lately. Despite the success, Harold couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere along the way, they'd lost touch with what truly mattered. So one Monday morning, instead of sitting in his corner office overlooking downtown Portland, Harold found himself standing behind the checkout counter of store number 17, wearing a simple gray uniform. The store buzzed with activity as usual, carts rolling back and forth while cheerful music played softly overhead. But today felt different for Harold. He adjusted his name tag, "Hi, I'm Hal," and took a deep breath. This wasn't just another day. It was about understanding, really understanding, what happened beyond boardroom meetings and profit margins. His first shift started uneventfully enough. Customers greeted him warmly, some even complimenting his speed at scanning items. There was Mr. Peterson, always precise with his list, and young Tommy, whose mother encouraged him to pick out fruits. Each interaction brought Harold closer to the people who kept his business alive. Yet, amidst these moments, there lingered questions in his mind. Were they truly being served well? Was every employee treating customers like valued family members? As hours passed, Harold noticed how each cashier handled situations differently. Some were patient, others rushed through transactions without looking up once. It troubled him more than he expected. Then came the moment that would change everything, when Supervisor Roy appeared on the floor. Roy Jenkins had worked at store number 17 longer than anyone else currently employed there. His voice carried authority, yet held an edge that made employees glance nervously whenever he approached their stations. Today, though, Harold witnessed something that stopped him cold. Watching from a distance, hidden beneath his cap and glasses, Harold overheard Roy speaking to another cashier during a particularly busy lunch hour. "You know," Roy said casually, leaning against the register counter where young Brian stood scanning groceries, "those old folks take forever. They can't decide between 2 cans of soup, then they fumble around for coupons." His tone carried irritation mixed with dismissal. "Just hurry them along, kid. We've got lines backing up." Brian nodded silently, clearly uncomfortable but unwilling to challenge his superior. That exchange struck deep within Harold. The weight of those words settled heavily in his chest, not because they were surprising, but because they confirmed fears he'd long suspected. How could someone so integral to daily operations view longtime customers this way? That evening, after clocking out under the watchful gaze of Roy, Harold walked home slowly, replaying the scene in his mind. He thought about Mrs. Thompson, who came every Thursday afternoon, carefully choosing vegetables for her famous stew recipe. Or Mr. Harris, who often shared stories about his grandchildren while paying for his weekly shopping. These weren't just numbers or slow-moving obstacles. They were people who deserved respect and kindness. Determined to understand better, Harold decided to continue working incognito, observing closely how staff interacted with all types of customers. What he discovered over the next few weeks shocked him further. Conversations among employees revealed underlying attitudes that contradicted the company's core values. Whispered complaints about certain age groups, dismissive remarks about those using food assistance programs. It all painted a picture far removed from the welcoming atmosphere Harold envisioned. Yet, amidst these troubling revelations, there were bright spots too. One rainy afternoon, Harold watched as new hire Marcus went above and beyond helping Mrs. Collins carry her groceries to her car despite having finished his shift. Such acts reminded Harold why he started this journey, to ensure everyone felt valued regardless of circumstances. But the real turning point came unexpectedly during a routine meeting called by corporate headquarters. Seated anonymously among the team, Harold listened intently as Roy presented ideas for increasing efficiency. Everything sounded logical until Roy suggested implementing stricter time limits per transaction to reduce wait times. When questioned about potential impacts on slower-moving customers, Roy shrugged nonchalantly, saying, "They'll adapt or shop elsewhere." Those words ignited something powerful inside Harold. Sitting quietly in the corner, he realized action needed to be taken, drastic action. But how? Could he confront Roy directly without revealing his true identity? More importantly, how could he address systemic issues affecting multiple stores across the chain? Days turned into restless nights filled with contemplation. During one such night, Harold remembered a quote his father used to say, "A leader isn't defined by titles but by actions." Those words echoed through his thoughts, urging him forward. He knew exactly what needed to be done, even if it meant risking everything. The following week, Harold initiated changes starting right at store number 17. First, he introduced mandatory training sessions focusing on empathy and customer service excellence. Next, he established anonymous feedback channels allowing both employees and customers to voice concerns openly. Most significantly, he personally led discussions emphasizing the importance of treating everyone with dignity and respect. Not surprisingly, resistance emerged immediately. Some employees grumbled about additional responsibilities, while Roy openly questioned Harold's methods. Tensions rose, especially when Harold began shadowing shifts regularly, ensuring policies were followed correctly. Yet, through it all, Harold remained steadfast, driven by unwavering belief in doing what was right. One particular incident solidified his resolve. An elderly gentleman named Walter entered the store struggling visibly with arthritis-affected hands. Watching from afar, Harold saw several employees avoid assisting him, citing busyness. Heartbroken yet determined, Harold stepped in himself, patiently helping Walter select items and carrying them to the checkout. Afterward, Walter thanked him profusely, sharing how rare such kindness had become lately. This encounter became a pivotal moment for Harold. Realizing personal involvement created tangible differences, he expanded similar initiatives throughout other branches. Slowly but surely, positive changes rippled outward. Employees began noticing subtle shifts in workplace culture, leading to improved morale and customer satisfaction ratings. However, challenges persisted. Roy's opposition grew increasingly vocal, culminating in a heated confrontation during a regional managers' conference. Standing face to face, Harold finally revealed his true identity, shocking everyone present. With calm authority, he addressed the room, explaining his reasons for going undercover and detailing findings gathered firsthand. His speech resonated deeply, prompting applause and nods of agreement from many attendees. In the aftermath, difficult decisions had to be made. Roy's employment ended amicably, replaced by someone embodying desired leadership qualities. Meanwhile, Harold implemented comprehensive reforms addressing root causes of previous issues. Training programs evolved, incorporating real-life scenarios and encouraging open dialogue about biases and preconceptions. Months later, visiting store number 17 again, Harold marveled at transformations achieved. Smiles greeted him everywhere, genuine warmth replacing former indifference. Customers praised improvements, noting marked differences in service quality. Even Roy's former position showed promise under its new occupant, a younger manager named Lucas committed to fostering inclusive environments. Reflecting on his journey, Harold understood fully now. Success wasn't merely measured in profits or expansion rates. True achievement lay in creating spaces where humanity thrived, where every individual felt seen and appreciated. As he left the store that evening, watching sunsets paint skies orange, Harold felt peace settle within him. His mission hadn't ended here. Rather, it had only begun anew, inspiring countless others along the way. Life moved forward steadily, bringing new opportunities and challenges daily. Through it all, Harold carried lessons learned close to heart, reminding himself constantly of promises made. Because sometimes the greatest discoveries happen when we least expect them, forcing us to reevaluate priorities and redefine success according to values that matter most. And so Harold continued walking his path, one step at a time, believing firmly in possibilities awaiting ahead. For in the end, isn't that what leadership truly means? Guiding ourselves and others toward brighter futures filled with hope, understanding, and mutual respect. That's the story, friends. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a pleasure sharing it with you all. Don't forget to comment below and let me know where you're watching from. It's always fun to see the global reach of these stories. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more amazing stories, tips, and tricks. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. If you'd like to show some extra love, tap the 3 dots near the share button and send a super thanks.